So, as I was saying to myself, welcome to the final session of ASHE, which these past few days have really moved very quickly, and I want to thank everybody here still in San Juan, as well as folks joining us through the virtual ticket, for being in community with us and just doing great things, having great conversations over these past few days. Since January 2019, when I first started in my role as executive director, we've been considering San Juan, and around April, May 2019, and then finally confirmed in June 2019, we decided to come here, to come to the island. When we visited on our initial site visit, it was only a few years after Maria, Hurricane Maria, as well as before a few other hurricanes, and as well as earthquakes that impacted the southern part of the island. Obviously, before we knew COVID was going to be a thing, but well into the colonization of what was once known as Rican. Over these past few days, I hope we've all learned the beauty of this island, the caring of this island, and the community of this island. I want to thank the wait staff, the service staff, and everyone in Puerto Rico for allowing us to come here as visitors. As we move from Puerto Rico back to our homes, I want to transition us a little bit from this idea that President Stewart has really allowed us to learn about over the past year of moving from being in a place together to being in a space together. ASHE is a collective of individual members. So as we move into our spaces and our collective, I like to offer my continuing commitment to our Indigenous members to continue moving with you and alongside you as we do this important work, to take responsibility when harm is done, and to do good for you and the many, many more Indigenous scholars to come. As we begin this evening's program, I'd like to take some time as well to thank our many sponsors who made this event possible. As I shared at the opening session, their financial support allows us to remain as much of a financially accessible organization as possible. So if we could give our sponsors a round of applause. Many of those decision makers are in this room, so if you see them, please also give them some individual gratitude. Before I transition over to President Stewart, I do want to share a few updates about the association. So one thing that folks continuously ask me about is, where are we with membership? So we have a slide to kind of show you the past few years of where our membership has been. As you can see, as most other organizations, most of our campuses and organizations, we were obviously impacted by COVID. You can see the dip in 2020, but we are quickly rebounding, and as of last month, stood at 2,043 members, which is great. We appreciate folks remaining in ASHE, coming back to ASHE, and all of the new members as well. The other question I get is about money, so we'll share a little bit about finances. So when the board was discussing the budget at the end of last year, in December last year, we knew COVID was still going to be a thing. We didn't know if we were going to be virtual or in person, or what our conference or events would look like. We projected a deficit, as you can see at that bottom line, about a $72,000 deficit in last December. Over the summer, as we continue making decisions, we actually projected about a $150,000 deficit, but I'm happy to report that we're actually planning to end the year with about a zero deficit. We're hoping actually we may actually have a little surplus at the end of the year. As President Stewart and myself and our budget chair, Jeff Sun, have talked about a lot, growing up in a low-income working class home, money is always something that is a personal insecurity, and as executive director over this past year has also been a professional insecurity. So I thank you all for supporting the organization in whichever way you can, by continuing your membership, by engaging here in San Juan, by donating to the Graduate Student Fund, in whichever way you can. On the other side of the slide is also our balance sheet. As of the end of last month, I believe, September, we had about $1.7 million in assets. Much of that is in what we have called our rainy day fund, and we're about 72% of the benchmark that we've set to ensure that if something would happen, again, like a pandemic, that we will be able to survive financially. Thankfully, over the past few years, we haven't had to dip into that rainy day fund, but we do have it there and are getting closer to be 100% funded in that, are fulfilled in that fund, to make sure that we are able to have longevity as an organization. I also want to share that our Budget Finance and Compliance Committee has worked on this really great and, per ASHE, very long email that you all get next week, explaining some more of these details and the work that they have been doing over the past few years to make sure that we remain a financially healthy organization. So with those updates, I want to turn it over now to two really incredible people I've had the honor and privilege to work with this past year, our 2021 Program Committee co-chairs, Drs. Natasha Kroom and Z. Nicolazzo.
Yes. We really about to Drake this thing because we didn't know, so sorry. Not sorry. All right, well, y'all, we are here, the end of the 2021 ASHE Annual Conference.
Yes,
No, y'all not excited as we are? Okay, all right, that's fair. And it is, I think, a tradition, I can use that word appropriately, for the chairs to give a recap of the conference, which Z and I have chosen to do, and what we've heard throughout our time in this space and place, and what we've understood as we move away from this place back to our respective homes. And so I'm going to start, and because I like Chisme, I'm going with what I actually heard. All right, so demand and desire beyond the institution. I don't know who said that, but somebody said that. Either we're going to do something about diversity, inclusion, and equity, or stop talking about it. We're not honest with our history. What are the rituals for the death of an idea? Why is rejection a marker of quality in higher education? If you want to be in community, solidarity, and coalition with people, accountability is required for restorative justice. And if you don't want to be in said relationship, that's a choice too, and you should expect and accept the consequences of your actions. And lastly, I feel like Dr. Grande gave permission to use this language, but we need to recognize the duckery of now.
Well, and you know, they say Chisme saves lives, so you're just out here saving lives, Natasha. Some of my takeaways are broader picture thinking, maybe 30,000 feet up, which will surprise no one who knows me. So I have been thinking a lot about how multiple participants shared with me feelings of appreciation for being in communities of care and love were the actual words that they used. And so nice to think about care and love as a part of an academic conference. Thinking about all of the deep thinking across and within programming sections, the across being a gift that, I don't know, maybe someone over here on the stage gave to us with the Spanning the Borders sessions. I'm taking away the fact that conference keynotes, and I'm using keynotes in quotes, will never be the same after what Sandy Grande gifted us with this morning. So I know that I will go back and watch that tape multiple times, and I will still not be ready for it. And also thinking about the importance and beauty of the time between and after sessions as a space to reconnect with kin and colleagues, something that I know many of us missed last year as we were doing conferencing virtually. We also want to do some final thank yous. So thank you again and again and again to the programming committee. We really could not have done this without y'all. I also appreciate Jason recognizing the people that create this space that we often don't see, and we often don't see them by design, unfortunately. So thank you to the Sheraton Hotel staff who continue to make, take down, remake, and clean our shared spaces through the week. Thank you to the tech staff, the captioning teams, and all who allowed us to do what it is that we came here to think, feel, and do together. I also want to say thanks to my colleagues and students alongside whom I work at the University of Arizona for your patience over the last year. I know that my response time was often a little bit longer. I was a teeny bit busier at certain times, and so I appreciate your patience with me through that process. I also want to thank my dear Natasha. Yes, give it up for Natasha, yes. Natasha and I have been doing some of this programming committee work for a couple of associations together for a couple of times, and I have loved every second of it, but will not do it again, so please, or at least not for a while, give me a little bit of a break. So thank you to Natasha as well as my dear brother DL for believing in my abilities to take on this role. I literally have a very small crew of people that I never say no to in higher education, and Natasha and DL are two of those folks that I never say no to, and it's one of the best professional decisions that I continue to make over again. So thank you to the two of you for, making this process delightful.
And I, too, want to thank my I feel so like we're at a student affairs. Anyway, my as well, Z, for being an amazing partner in this. I feel like in all the times that we share in doing this work, I'm constantly learning from you, laughing with you, and living with you. And I appreciate you allowing for me to be there with you, okay? I'm not sure what else we were supposed to do, but I think that's it. All right, we out. Don't call us.
Yes? Yes. There we go. So next, it is my great pleasure to introduce our 2021 President, Dr. Dl Stewart. When I was thinking of DL's introduction, just reflecting over this past year and the stuff we've been through and just rolling with it and just the love that he brought into this space and into this association and into my life. It is so appreciated. DL and I have met every other week at least throughout the past year and a half, and our last meeting was 2 weeks ago. And our last Zoom meeting, our last meeting was here. Thank you for correcting me. Leads with love, as I said. And he came into the meeting, I was there first, and as he walked in, came into the space, I was playing End of the Road by Boyz II Men. And we had a great laugh. He had a rough day that day, and it was a great laugh, but I will say, while that song was appropriate, I hope it's not the end of the road. I think this is going to be a long friendship, and I just appreciate you so much. So I'm going to welcome you to the stage to tout about this year we have that has been amazing, and like I said, some stuff.
Whew. All right now. Last time. I'm just going to ignore I heard that. Greetings. Buenas tardes. So I'm tasked to talk about further about this past year. And I cannot do that, and I did this when I presented it to the board a couple weeks ago as well. I cannot do that without acknowledging the larger context in which we have walked this last year, which we have moved through this last year. We, since the conclusion of the New Orleans virtual conference in 2020 through now, we have continued to deal with a global pandemic. We have lost, not just in that year frame going back to March 2020, and it was mentioned, Dr. Grande mentioned it today, this morning in her keynote, we have lost 5 million people across this world. We have lost, at this point, and I checked the numbers today, here in the U.S. and contiguous U.S., we have lost 754,000 people. We have been, perhaps we could say fortunate, perhaps we could say spared within this association that in terms of our members, somehow, that did not touch us as our members. But it did touch our members, right? Through the loss of family, friends, watching communities suffer. This is the larger work. That's the work that has mattered over the last year. For those of you who were at the awards reception Thursday night, you may remember hearing me say, it's not just the work that was done, our scholarly professional work, because how do we distinguish that? But that's a different talk. That work that we celebrate at the awards receptions that we give, it's not just the people in this particular last year who did work in spite of. It's the people, and some of whom may not have been on that stage that night. It's the people who did what they did because of what we were going through, because of a global health crisis, because of the ongoing and continuing fires of race and racial violence and white supremacy and settler colonialism in this lands, in this country. The people who did because of that, who still taught, who still showed up to classes, who still put in and conducted new research looking at the impact of COVID-19 on students, on student affairs workers, on faculty, on organizations, because of those who served on committees as institutions were claiming and now proclaiming an anti-racist mission and values, who served on committees about campus and community safety in response to calls from students to divest and unfund police departments on campuses. It's that work that has happened over this last year. It's that work that matters. Because in the context of that, yes, ASHE also still functioned. We had people, volunteers, who showed up to help support this organization. And here it is an in spite of everything that was going on in our lives. Who showed up and sat on committees and did work, who chaired committees, who gave time and energy on the board to help this association continue to provide value, service, and opportunity to our members and the broader higher education community. And that's the context in which what I'm going to share really needs to be situated within. So with that, if you'll please start the first slide. So, President Dr. Chris Friend, in 2019, led the crafting, the development of our strategic plan that at that point was called ASHE at 47. And we continued, this is now in the second year of moving forward with that strategic plan, shifting, transforming, growing the association. After 2 years, we have either completed or made progress on nearly 60% of the goals in that strategic plan. But I think it could be more apparent what that really means, what that looks like, if we go through some these different categories I have here: governance, operations, building and growth. I'm calling building and growth, the conference and year-round programming, and a couple of things fell off the bottom of the slide, but position taking as well. So in terms of governance, next slide, please. This is out of the strategic plan, were the creation of a number of strategic working groups. Okay. Scholarly communications, diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility, operations, and that were begun in this last year. If you'd like to get a sense and learn more about what each of those groups did and how they approached their work, if you didn't watch it, I encourage you to go back and watch the webinar that I had held with the chairs of those working groups, as well as ethics, which I'll talk about separately and specifically in a moment, last month. Okay, but in short, they have made recommendations. Most of them have made recommendations to the board already for consideration. And as a result of the action of the members of the Strategic Working Group on Operations, we made the bold decision to leave the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and to reimagine how we can do our work in the 21st century. The ongoing work of the ad hoc committee on ethics, which was actually begun in 2020, co-led by Drs. Noah Dresner and Jenny Hart, has resulted in our joining the Society's Consortium on Sexual Harassment in STEM and the adoption of some of their policies and work to guide the development of our own policies and procedures around ethics. We now have a fully seated ethics committee, have engaged the work of 2 ombuds who were here at the conference with us. We've written into the bylaws, setting the direction for how we will engage and respond to harassment, bias, and discrimination. This was overdue work, but we are now ready and prepared to address it when it does arise. The ad hoc committee on scholarly ethics is continuing its work, building on what has been done so far. I think these achievements position ASHE as an association that values our members, cares for how we engage each other, and which does not sit back unable to respond. Related to our fiduciary responsibilities and due to the tremendous effort and ingenuity of our Budget, Finance, and Compliance Committee, led by outgoing board member and chair Jeff Sun, we now have an investment strategy. Right? That's going to guide us for years to come and ensure that financial health and strength of the association, not just in a single year or a single span of years, but ongoing. Not only do we have an investment strategy, and I really want you to hear me here, but we have one that is aligned with our values and commitment to diversity, equity, and social justice. We are putting our money into funds which support directly the businesses that are minority or racially minoritized or owned by racially minoritized groups who are doing work that feeds back into their communities. That's where our investment funds are going. And I think it's important that we recognize that. These are changes that will stick. I talked Thursday morning about concretizing, right, and embedding practices and procedures. These are changes that are going to stick with us. If we'll go to the next slide on operations. Call this becoming a more mature organization, as Jason referenced, growing up. ASHE, right now we might consider ourselves as adolescents as an association. And if you think about the adolescents that are in your lives in whatever way, we're trying to grow up from that and continue on, right? And shepherded by Jason and with support from the board, we've made significant advancements in this area. First, and related to the last point about fiscal viability, which you already saw Jason talk about for this year, it's remained strong, perhaps even improved. And that's really due, Jason didn't say this, but it's really due to his prudent decision-making regarding taking advantage of government funding due to the pandemic, pursuing insurance claims, getting us our money, right? Jason has done tremendous work with that. Second, despite the fiscal challenges and uncertainties presented by COVID, we made the necessary and calculated investment in staff expansion, bringing on 2 new staff members, Cindy Brewster, who you've seen here in the conference. Where are you? I can't see you from here. Where are you at? Oh, there you go. Okay. I was like, the first time I saw you were up here. All right. Cindy, but also our administrative assistant, Mai Chua Tao. Both of them, yes, give her some ups too. Both of them have already added a great deal to our association, bolstered and expanded our administrative capacities. If we're going to continue to grow up and be a mature organization, we cannot just have a staff of 1.5 people. It's not gonna work, all right? And Jason is like, I'm not gonna be that 1.5 person. Just so you know this. And so this is not the end. We have more staff development and growth to do, okay? Third, and perhaps, and I mentioned this in the last area under governance, perhaps the greatest, I'll say, emotional impact in our operations has been that decision to leave UNLV. After over a decade of collaboration and housing our operations there. But this decision presented us with an opportunity to imagine new ways of doing business that also moved us forward in our growth cycles and association. Next slide, please. All right, building and growth, investing in the future. Under the leadership of Dr. Noah Dresner, so Noah's been doing double duty here at ethics as well as philanthropy, in his role as chair of the Advancement and Fundraising Committee, continued to raise the bar on development and philanthropy in the association. Significant gains were seen amongst the membership and in giving, and excitement continues to build. We were able to support 50 graduate students, 50 graduate students at this conference. And not in no little, oh, here's a couple $100, here's $100, no, at $400 each. And so many great thanks and gratitude to all of you in the room who helped contribute to making that possible. Whether you gave $5, $10, or $500, all of it matters and all of it is valuable. As Jason mentioned already, we experienced a membership rebound in 2021, reaching over 2,000 members again for the first time since early in 2019. We saw fewer dropped members, right? So that matters too. It's not just a revolving door. We saw fewer drop members, higher levels of reactivated members over the previous year. And so through ongoing efforts, people are realizing that ASHE can be a home for their scholarship, for their professional development, and their community. Next slide, please. So when we think about the conference, an experience reimagined, and I use that word experience very intentionally. We continue to confront the challenges that COVID-19 introduced in 2020. Again, Jason and Cindy and the rest of the ASHE office staff, which largely includes graduate students, we are weathering this challenge. We were able to put on what has been a very successful conference. And it's not just about the people who are here in this room. Through the virtual ticket option that Jason imagined, that enabled another 300 some people to also experience and engage in the conference. For the second year, pre-conferences remained fully virtual the week before the general conference, in a move that again expands access and introduction into our ASHE community. Truly, this has been a conference reimagined. Introduced this year was the Local and Community Engagement Committee as part of the conference leadership team. You met them earlier and have seen them throughout the week, Drs. Heather Schotten and Awilda Rodriguez, along with their committee of 6 other ASHE members. You can go on the website and see all their names and who they are. Further reimaginings were introduced to the conference, including the decolonized tours to El Yunque and Loíza, to Tibes and Ponce, as well as the Rican syllabus. You still have time to actually read it. These innovations opened up opportunities for conference attendees and others through the syllabus and the tours to learn deeply about the space and the place in which we are located right now, and your relationship to it, our relationship to it. In the general conference program, our program co-chairs, who you just heard from, Drs. Natasha Kroom and Zina Colazo, and their full committee. There are 25, 30 people on that committee. It's a whole lot of folk. It's a lot of people who came together, put their shoulders to the wheel to help make this happen. You can also see all their names on the website as well, and I encourage you to do so. They brought reimaginings into the conference. Section descriptions were renamed and clarified. Descriptions were revised to add clarity for those submitting. Guiding questions were again used to assist those who wanted to be able to incorporate the theme in their work. Inspired by the research of Rachel Smith and Michael Brown appearing in our own journal, The Review, Natasha was able to envision the Spanning the Border sessions that brought papers together from different sections of the conference program with discussants who were able to speak to and across those papers. How many of you went to a Spanning the Border session during this week? Awesome. And it was able to, in ways we don't generally see this at conferences. We haven't seen it before here at ASHE, right? Both in response to COVID and as part of continually improving our practices, new means of making the conference more broadly accessible related to disability came forward. I very much appreciate those chairs, and there were multiple at different times, particularly as we closed out Kirsten Brown and Autumn Wilkie for their leadership and their group. They were members of the conference leadership team, okay? And I think that matters. That matters. A member of that group, it was Autumn, attended the site visit we did in July with the rest of the conference leadership team to evaluate on the ground the accessibility needs of our conference attendees. I know things haven't gone perfectly, particularly with some of the pieces, but that went on us. We did more than I think we have done in the past, and particularly we're responsive to the situation that the pandemic brought us, right? Kicking off the general conference on Wednesday was the Institute with Puerto Rican Higher Education Leaders, sponsored by the Ascendium Foundation, the Lumina Foundation, and the University of Denver, under the leadership of Dr. Vanessa Sanson and the unparalleled, just Monica Hernandez was just like superstar, just, yeah, amazing. And 3 teams of scholars, so there were about 18 or so people who were involved in this, who were ASHE members, connecting with about another 15 to 18 Puerto Rican college and university leaders that included faculty and administrators. We had students in the space as well. Came together to focus attention on issues related to student success, to STEM education, and to funding, right? I'm also really grateful to Dr. Margarita Benitez and Wanda Figueroa for their assistance in helping to make that institute happen as well. So year-round programming, next slide, please. Has been the practice since at least 2018, programming related to the conference theme and in support of our members has continued year-round, right? One of the things we have been wanting to make sure is that ASHE is not just a conference-centric experience, right? But there are opportunities to connect and engage throughout the year, so you're constantly seeing stuff happen, and there's a reason for that, right? A rich slate of professional development events have been offered this year, including the Research Methods Workshops, the Early Career Faculty Workshop, the International Scholars Workshop, the Graduate Student Policy Seminar, which saw its highest attendance ever, CIHE's Mentoring and Networking Program, CEP's Mentor Protege Program, as well as the Mid-Career Faculty and the Academic Leaders Workshops, which those 2 will be happening next month. For the first time, these professional development offerings also included a focus on helping researchers use their work to inform policy. A partnership with the Scholar Strategy Network on policy mapping provided evidence-based instructions for how to begin and maintain productive relationships with policymakers and what strategies are critical for mutual trust. Our partnership with ACPA continued in the offering of the virtual ACPA ASHE Presidential Symposium on the 1st of October. And in this symposium, scholars and practitioners came together to reimagine, influence, and lead in what is new, what is happening now, and what comes next. It was a rich and deep conversation, and I encourage you to go and watch the video. The presidential webinar series also continued with another 4 offerings in 2021. These were organized and moderated by Dr. Stephen John Quay. And these workshops took the conference theme and approached them from different perspectives and arenas, including sustainability, gender, the impact of COVID on cultural center spaces, and the ways that community colleges and MSIs particularly cross the borders to bridge institutions of higher education in the community. Again, these webinars are available through the ASHE website, and I encourage you to please go and visit them over the coming months. Next slide, please. We did a lot, can you tell? It was like, are you tired? Because I'm tired looking at all this. We didn't stop there. Position statements. We have a policy that was introduced in 2012, somewhere around there, to really put our research to work to address critical issues that were happening that impacted higher education. There were 4 such activities under position taking that we took in this year. Now, mind you, since this started, I said it's been about 9-10 years or so, those 4 are at least half of what we've done in that entire frame of time, right? But we spoke to and responded and provided direction to the Biden administration around Title IX and the ways that it had been undermined during the last presidential administration. We sent a letter to the secretary and undersecretary in the Department of Education giving guidance and, well, not just giving guidance, we kind of told them what they need to be paying attention to in terms of post-secondary education. We produced, and I say we, and it's teams of writers did these things, okay? Again, ASHE members in the midst of a year that was just bonkers, to really put it very mildly, who gave of their time, who gave and generous with their scholarship and their expertise to produce these amazing, not just policy statements and documents, but also at the same time educating us about where we needed to go next, how we could raise the bar in our scholarship and practice. And this statement in support of trans youth was an amazing example of just that. We signed on to a letter opposing the spate of legislative protocols and proposals, being introduced across the country that targeted academic lessons, presentations, and discussions of racism. We put our voice in the mix in that issue. This is what it means, I think, to be a scholarly association of higher education. We're not just here to navel gaze. We're here to engage with the larger community, to use our research to direct practice and policy, and to educate ourselves about how we can do better. We fully engaged that work this year. Next slide, please. No, I think I'm done, actually. That's the last one, isn't it? Okay, so as stated at the outset, 2021 has been quite a year. Our ability to pivot, to innovate, and to reimagine has been tested many a time. And I dare say we have more than risen to the occasion as leaders of this association. I have been going through and giving thanks and shout outs to so many different people, and it's because this literally could not have happened without them and their partnership. It just really couldn't have. And so I've seen people have been coming up to me all week and saying thank you to me, and I'm like, I'm not the one you should say thank you to, right? It's Jason, it's Cindy, it's Maichua, it's Heather, it's Awilda, it's Natasha, it's Z, it's Autumn and Kirsten and Monica and Vanessa. and countless other, the volunteers, you walk back and forth across the help desk and you see volunteers sitting there all day. It's them, all right? Yeah, where we at? All right. So at this point, that was my last act as president of the Association for the Study of Higher Education. But let me tell you about what's coming next. Look, about who's coming next. Our next president, Dr. Joy Gaston Gales. Okay. I know her sorors in the room. It's okay, come on. There we go. Okay. Dr. Joy Gaston Gales is Senior Advisor for Advancing Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in the College of Education at North Carolina State University, where she's also Program Coordinator and Professor of Higher Education. Look, you know, you can scroll on her faculty profile page and just like keep going for a minute, because she's a badass in her own right, okay? Her research focuses on how college impacts student learning and personal development for primarily student athletes and women and underrepresented people of color in STEM. And she was one of the earliest, okay, scholars of color, and particularly Black women scholars, to do that work in higher ed. I know that because what many of you may not realize is that Joy and I did our doctoral programs together at The Ohio State University, beginning in it was the year, the very first edition of the College Student Development Theory text was. Yeah, the yellow book. And so going through classes together, I remember do you remember the project we did together in Dr. Susan Jones' class on it was called Theories of Diverse College Students? Yes. We have been rolling together on these academic streets for a very long time. She knows my son from before like anybody could see him outside, of the world. She has known him from time he was pea-sized, right? And on a consistent and a regular basis, she has been not just a colleague, but a friend, a cheerleader, a supporter, and we have been that for each other for going on 24 years. There's not too many people that you will meet in the academy that you can say that about, right? But one thing, and I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna turn it over. So Joy played softball in high school, softball player. And she told me she played all the positions. So if you know anything about softball, there's like 9 different positions. She played all the positions. But she was particularly a pitcher. That was her area of specialty and expertise. And there's a metaphor there in terms of how she leads, how she shows up. She's a team player. She's someone who has familiarity and recognition of all of what it takes to play the game, right? She doesn't just, some people just know what they do and they have no clue what it takes to actually make the whole thing operate. That's not Joy. As a pitcher, right? So here's where I might get a little in trouble with this metaphor because baseball and softball are not my strong point. But what I do know and remember about pitching and the role of the pitcher, right? That's the person who is there. It's a defensive player, right? It's a defensive player, really. And is there to help guard, right? Guard and hold back the advancement of the other team. I see somebody, Bridget's nodding, so I'm on the right track. So, thank you, Bridget. Right, and when we think about what we continue to face as an association, we need a leader for this moment who can help us direct and see and recognize and strategize how we can continue to move forward and beat back the forces, the conditions, the factors that are trying to encroach, that we're trying to take over. That's Joy. That's your next president.
All right. Thank you so much for that warm introduction. DL, this is just like grad school, right? So, yeah. So I would be sitting in class, and DL would have these pontifications, and I'm sitting there like, I didn't even think of that. I didn't think of that. So I know what y'all were thinking as he gave his presidential address, because I was sitting over there in the middle, and y'all were probably thinking, what is the next president thinking? And I'll tell you what I was thinking, like, how am I gonna top that? This is just like grad school. Here we are, full circle moment. Now I gotta come and do some deep thinking. But thank you so much, DL, for that warm introduction and welcome as the 2022 ASHE president. And we really have been in these academic streets together for a long time, over 20 years, and it has been such an honor to serve alongside you for so long, but it ain't over, right? It ain't over. And so before you take your seat as immediate past president with a big smile, well-deserved smile on your face, I want to, as a scholarly community, say a huge thank you for your leadership, for your wisdom, for your vision, for your compassion, for your vulnerability and humility as our 2021 ASHE president. So thank you. I like to share presents when we give them. So it says, ASHE 2021 President Dr. Dl Stewart presented at the 46th Annual Conference. No, stay. And let's see. So in case y'all didn't know and couldn't tell from all of those things that were presented about what the president does when the president isn't here at a conference, right? It's not easy serving in this role. But, and it's really not easy when you're in the midst of a whole global, I want to say panorama because we make up names when things are really, really big, but a whole pandemic. And so, you know, as I watched you lead with such grace and compassion over the past year, and although my knees are shaking right now, I knew that I would be okay because, you know, you set such a wonderful example for me to follow. And so I also want to present you with a gift to show my appreciation to you and your leadership and our wonderful friendship for over 20 years. So thank you. So next, I want to invite Dr. Heather Schotten for a special presentation on behalf of the ASHE Indigenous Scholars Collective.
So on behalf, I'm the one left. As I told someone earlier today, I'm the last of the Mohicans. Y'all don't get to use that joke. I do. They are all on a plane going home right now. But over the years, we have developed a really special relationship with DL and have really, beyond being in community, have come to be relatives. DL has created space, not just in his presidency, but back in CEP and that work, always honoring our place in this organization, making us visible, being in community with us. And so for us, one of the ways that we honor is to provide a blanket or gift a blanket to someone. And so on behalf of all of our scholars, the Indigenous Scholars Collective, we honor you, we thank you for truly being a good relative.
Okay, I think that's it now. I think that's it. Yeah. Okay. So thank you again, DL, for your leadership and service to this organization. But before I give my remarks as your 2022 ASHE president, I also want to introduce and thank the 2022 leadership team. So there's a slide, I think. Yes, and so we have our... And so you have two co-chairs, Drs. Bridget Turner Kelly at the University of Maryland, College Park, and Dr. Lara Perez Felkner at Florida State University. And our 2022 Local and Community Engagement Committee co-chairs, Drs. Chris Nelson at the University of Denver, and Dr. Magdalena Martinez at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. So I also want to take the time to thank our ASHE office, Jason, our amazing executive director extraordinaire. Thank you so much. Jason, you and your team deserve a round of applause, standing ovation, all the accolades, all the things. Thank you. I also want to thank our amazing new, wonderful Director of Conference and Events, Cindy Brewer in the back there. as well as our new administrative assistant, Mai Chuao, and yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. And all of our wonderful ASHE volunteers and graduate assistants, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I know you all were wondering if this hybrid conference would happen, because we were wondering it too, right? And how, not just how it could happen, but how we can do it in a way and keep each other safe and be responsible to the people in Puerto Rico at the same time. And so, you know, kudos to you, Jason, for leading with an ethic of care to make sure that we did this right? And the write-up in Diverse Issues in Higher Education, if you haven't read it, I encourage you to do so. It really speaks to that. And I think we've done a great job with your amazing leadership, Jason and DL, in terms of setting the tone to how to do this responsibly that other organizations can follow, right? Yeah. And so as I was thinking about my remarks for today and my vision for ASHE 2022, the weight of what has happened over the last year and a half, almost 2 years, has been really heavy on my heart. And I've been thinking about what that means for us. The past couple of years or so mark one of the most challenging periods in recent world history. As people and a scholarly community, we've experienced and continue to experience a traumatic global pandemic that has changed life as we knew it. I hope all of you took the time to view the visual Call to Remember exhibit directed and curated by Doctors Michelle, Brian, and Toby Jenkins. Do they see us? This powerful display showed the ways in which we all have been affected by the global health pandemic and racial trauma over the past year and some change. It's taken a toll on us in ways that are seen and unseen. And I appreciated reading all of your stories, particularly those of you who contributed to that project. And, you know, going through the exhibit, it really brought me to a place of compassion, and it deepened my appreciation for not only what we've lost in sacrifice, but what we must do as a scholarly community dedicated to the study of higher and post-secondary education to take better care of ourselves and each other. So the title of this powerful display, Do They See Us? In many ways, the global health crisis further exposed and exacerbated disparities and inequities that many of us know already existed in schools and communities. In the midst of this global pandemic, we have also experienced and continue to witness heightened racial injustice and trauma due to the senseless murders of Black and brown people. It's not so much that racial violence is a new phenomenon, but it's being captured in a way nowadays that forces us to see it for what it is. It's not a faceless person that can be easily ignored or dismissed. It is and has always been a human being experiencing unjust violence, and we see it happening over and over and over again with little to no accountability nor changes in policies and practices. We have work to do, and it's going to require effort from all of us, not just some of us. In 2020, political actors around the world continue to do harm through state-sponsored violence and discrimination, including a controversial and politically charged U.S. presidential election. These divisions sowed by those in and with power left us deeply divided, socially, culturally, and politically. But let us not be fooled. Much of the socio-political divide sowed by those in power is designed intentionally to maintain a racial caste system of control. In reading Michelle Alexander's new book, The New Jim Crow, and Isabel Wilkerson's book, Caste, they remind us, using the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., that a racial caste system does not need overt racism to thrive or survive. The only thing that racial caste systems need to thrive and survive is racial indifference. But what I saw in the wake of George Floyd's murder in particular is, that people are waking up. Not necessarily because they want to, but because, as Alexander also said, there comes a time when the truth stares you in the face, daring you to look away and say nothing. So if we are not careful and critical, if we stay silent when we should speak, if we keep navel-gazing in our research and scholarship, as DL put it in his presidential address, instead of asking questions that matter and give power to the people, in the words of past President Sharon Harper, we will end up perpetuating and fast-tracking systemic oppression because, again, it doesn't take much for it to survive, especially if we are not careful to disrupt it by decolonizing our minds, as Julio Ricardo Varela reminded us yesterday in his keynote address. As the world slowly opens up and we adjust to a new normal, we must bring with us the lessons that we've learned and are learning during this period in world history. One call to action that resonated with me as I thought about the presidential theme for ASHE 2022 involves the opportunity to come back from the global health pandemic differently from how we entered it. The trauma and hurt, coupled with deep-seated social and political divides across the world, require healing. And that takes a lot of vulnerability and courage. Amidst the urgency to go back to life as it was pre-pandemic, we must not forget that going back to life as it was is where many of the problems in education and society reside. Therefore, a return to life as we knew it will not get us to a place of healing and transformative change necessary to eradicate systemic oppression and social injustice. In the words of Gloria Ladson-Billings, crises have a way of providing opportunities for social change. In many ways, the bigger the crisis, the bigger the opportunity for change. As a scholarly community, we have an opportunity to learn from the atrocities that have occurred and are still occurring, and imagine and innovate together for the greater good. In fact, many are depending on higher education to lead the way. Thus, the presidential theme for ASHE 2022 is humanizing higher education. I see this theme as a challenge, a call to action for us as a scholarly community to revisit what we've learned and what we are learning from this period in history and the centuries of systemic oppression that preceded. So what does humanizing future look like? As I said the theme and you saw it presented on the screen, I'm sure it resonated with each of you in different ways. My hope is that over the next year we can learn from each other what it means to humanize higher education, and what a humanized future might look like. In my mind, there are many dimensions of what it means to humanize higher education through research, scholarship, and practice that involve moving away from dehumanization to humanization, moving away from marginality and the politics of invisibility to mattering and visibility, moving away from individualism towards collectivism, and moving away from violence towards healing. I'll start the collective conversation by sharing my thoughts on what one dimension of humanizing higher education and research policy and practice means for me. Humanizing higher education means that I see you. I choose to see your humanity as a scholar and a whole person within this scholarly community. Not only do I see you, but I want to do something to honor and recognize your humanity so that you can bring your light into this world. I was listening to a podcast recently on ICUs, no pun intended, right? So during the pandemic, considering the vast amount of patients needing ICU care due to COVID, I've heard so many stories, including my own and even yours, in the visual call to remember about how this global pandemic has caused many of us to stop, to pause, to reevaluate life, to shift and reprioritize what is important to us, and to see each other, even in ICU units. And as I was listening to this podcast, the ICU doctor shared something that was pretty powerful, and it stuck with me. The doctor shared that instead of asking patients, "What's wrong with you?" the question shifted to, "What matters to you?" That simple but powerful question turned out to be one that was life-saving. As they listened to patients share what mattered to them, what was important in their worlds, it shifted their focus, and that's what they clung to, and it saved many of their lives. Further, focusing on what mattered to patients provided a space for doctors to help and humanize patient care in small but mighty ways. As I listened to the podcast and the doctors talk about shifting the question from "What's wrong with you?" to "What matters to you?" I wondered what humanizing higher education could look like if we did the same. Many of us study complex problems, and we often start by focusing on the problem. What's wrong with our educational system? Or worse, because we inappropriately assign problems to people these days, we ask, what's wrong with the people within our educational systems? But what if we shifted our focus in solving complex problems by focusing on what matters to people, the people we study, the people within our educational systems, particularly those who find themselves on the margins of society and education? I have a hunch that we will probably get better solutions to complex problems, solutions that drive authentic action, solutions that address problems closer to the root of the problem, and ultimately, solutions that provide greater educational opportunities within schools and communities. During the 2022 annual meeting and throughout the year, I invite us as a community of engaged scholars, policymakers, practitioners to participate in discussions and deep thinking on how our past, present, and future research, scholarship, and practice can support, integrate, and enact the theme of humanizing higher education. So I thank you, and I am really looking forward to working alongside you as your ASHE 2022 president.
So here we are at the end of the road. I came back, y'all see? You see? I just want to take a few more seconds, a few final reminders, but I want to start with some thanks. I know she has been thanked numerous times, but our new director of conference and events, Cindy Brewster, in the back. As much love as y'all can give her and continue giving her, I will appreciate it. Also, our staff who are back home and have been helping us staff the virtual pieces, Narosh as well as my Chua, as well as our on-site staff, some amazing folks, Sarah, Ariana, Tim, Latoya, Juanita, and Christine. Thank you. As I shared earlier, also thanking the hotel staff led by our wonderful event planner, Joelle, our AV crew led by the incredible Freddie, and our amazing Playback Now crew, who we were so fortunate to work with again this year, led by Doug. A few final things. If you're traveling out of San Juan through the airport, be sure to read the email I sent this morning. There's a few logistical things. As a warning, that may delay you a little bit. If you're traveling out tomorrow, expect some delays. Also, we, out of a continuous abundance of caution, have a surplus of face masks, as well as hand sanitizer that'll be available on your way out if you would like to grab some. If you don't, we're actually donating it to some local schools, but if there's some that you would like to take home, specifically we have some extra clear face masks, so if you're teaching and need those for teaching or anything, please feel free to grab those. And then I am just so excited to join with you all next year in the lands of the Southern Paiute. And we will see you all soon. Thank you, everybody.